The Civil War. I very much wanted to believe the Confederacy was not fighting for slavery, and I did believe this for a long time. And I still believe most Confederate soldiers were not fighting for slavery, and that neo-Confederates today deeply oppose slavery. But in the various charters for secession, expanding slavery territories cited as a reason for secession, and the political class in the Confederate States all held slaves. The specifics are unimportant, but the Confederate States seceded. Union troops were stationed at Fort Sumter in South Carolina. South Carolina seceded, and so the Union troops were trespassing and wouldn't leave, and so the Confederates fired on the Union troops. Lincoln then used this as an excuse to declare war, right? Union troops were in the territory of another state, of a foreign country. They were basically, the Union troops were invading. They were in an act of invasion, and the South Carolinians fought back. And Lincoln used this as an excuse to declare war. So Lincoln, in the prosecution of the war, suspended habeas corpus, imprisoned dissident reporters, right? Reporters who, were reporting negatively against the Union or pro-Confederate in any way. Conscripted hundreds of thousands of men, and fought battles in the North against deserters, right? And of course, deserters were just really Confederacy supporters, because the battles, fighting as a deserter in the North was worse than just joining the Union Army and fighting against the Confederates. So the deserters, given that the fighting was worse as a deserter, quote unquote, it was easier to just join the Union Army, and so clearly the deserters were actually Confederate supporters who were willing to fight a harder battle because they supported the Confederacy. Also, Lincoln, in the prosecution of the war, allowed slavery in states that supported the Union all the way through the war. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which promised to free slaves in the states that had joined the Confederacy, but not in the slaveholding states in the Union. Lincoln also planned for slavery to be reestablished after the war. Right? Lincoln did not plan for the emancipation to be permanent. However, Lincoln was assassinated before the war ended, and so it ended up just coming out that way. Lincoln planned to reestablish slavery after the war had ended. The emancipation was not to be a permanent thing. Now, one might say Lincoln did this because he cared for the Negro man and didn't command the slaves be freed in the loyal states just for political reasons. I do not believe this for three reasons. One, Lincoln had stated very clearly prior that he viewed black and white people as incompatible and that he was indifferent about slavery. Two, ending slavery in the South made all of those blacks loyal Republicans for the foreseeable future. It also killed the expansion of slavery, and thus the expansion of the Democrat Party westward, and any possibility of the issue being revived. Northern industries liked tariffs, which kept out foreign industrial goods and subsidized northern industrial goods, and the South paid most of this tariff. Ending slavery and preventing its expansion westward assured Republican success. And third, Britain was contemplating entering the war on the side of the Confederacy in order to keep the U.S. split and possibly pit the two against each other, right? Because, if you had the Confederacy secede, that would be another state that Britain could play off of against the Union. But slavery was extremely unpopular in the UK. In fact, slavery had been outlawed in the British Empire in 1834. The Emancipation Proclamation made the war about slavery, and the UK couldn't enter the war on the side of slavery at the time. It would not fly with the public. Lincoln had plenty of non-altruistic reasons to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, and clearly had no principles, as evidenced by his approval of Sherman's scorched earth tactics and shutting down dissent in the North. If Lincoln's prime goal was to abolish slavery, if slavery was the reason for all this, he could have given an emancipation ultimatum, right? And it would be like this: all states would be allowed to secede if slavery was abolished in their state. Okay? Lincoln could have said, well, we'll let you go. Fine, you can go. But only if you abolish slavery. And what this would have done, this would have had the interesting effect of pitting the politically connected slaveholders against the majority of Southerners who didn't own slaves, but they just wanted secession. Okay, and so and furthermore, what it would have done is it would have pitted the Southerners who just wanted freedom from the Union in this context, and the slaves. Right? It would have been the white free Southerners and the slaves fighting against the politically connected class. And of course it would have been no contest. It's a simple and elegant solution that forces the South to solve the problem itself, and it makes perfect sense that Lincoln would not do this if we understand that Lincoln cared about the Republican Party and his industrial patrons. This is why he engaged in politicians speak about the Union and how a house divided against itself cannot stand, right? The Union, Plato's perfect union. These were not grand speeches. This was empty and vague political babble, only a half a step removed from being as meaningless as Obama's hope and change.